So when we talk about difference between manual QA engineers and automation QA engineers, it's pretty obvious, right? Manual QA engineers testing software manually using their hands pretty much. Automation engineers, they're pretty much creating automation scripts which basically test it for you, right? So you don't have to test manually, you can write a script which will test it for you. But when it comes to SDET, many people got confused, like who is that? Software development engineering test? Is it a developer? Is it a tester? Or what's the difference between QA automation engineer and SDET, or maybe with developers? So it gets a little bit tricky and confusing, but let's find out. Hey guys, if you're thinking about switching your career and start to work in tech, become QA engineer or SDET, I'm inviting you to free Test Pro open house where you can ask your question, learn about QA engineer career or SDET career, learn about salaries and much more. Please click to the first link in the description, sign up for our open house, and we will meet you there. The word SDET originally came from Microsoft. In Microsoft, they called SDETs people who were working mostly with code, creating internal tools for manual QA engineers to help them do their job, right? It was not only limited to the QA automation, but in most cases automation, obviously. When we talk about different companies like Apple, Blizzard, Amazon, it doesn't mean they never had SDETs. They also had people who were working on automation stuff or creating internal tools, but they called them differently. They could call them like software test engineers or quality engineers. So the wording was different, but pretty much all of them were doing the same job. Even now you can see like different people can call SDETs differently, but right now SDET is the most popular title to describe it. Okay, so right now if we know that QA automation engineers are working mostly with automation and SDETs also working with automation, so what's the difference? So when we talk about QA automation engineers, their scope of work usually limited to creating automation scripts. So they're already working on existing test automation framework. So they're just creating a new script, updating existing tests, so they can also do some debugging, finding what's the issue if like their automation tests are failing. Also they can create new methods, update existing ones, update test data, and do this kind of job. Right now, to become a QA automation engineer, you also have to learn how to code, but sometimes you can see in a company's QA automation engineers, they can work on a more human readable language like a Cucumber, right? Or like a robot framework. You pretty much don't even have to code, right? You can just work on simple existing keywords, and they also QA automation engineers. But in most cases, I would say like 90-95% of the jobs requiring QA automation engineer also know how to code, because not many people are big fans of Cucumber or different BDD-based frameworks. So if we talk about SDETs, your scope of work much wider. That means you're not responsible only for creating automation scripts. You're also responsible to set up the full test automation framework from scratch. That means you need to create it, you need to write it, you need to code it, you need to structure it properly, you need to create all the integrations, for example, integrate it to CI/CD system. If you want to run your test in a cloud, and also integrate with browser stack, Source Lab, or you can also create like not only web automation frameworks, you can also work with Appium, integrate your mobile application test, and so on. So you can see like responsibilities and knowledge is much wider compared to QA automation engineers. But again, as I mentioned, it's not only limited to work with automation. You can also create some internal tools to help your manual QA colleagues or QA automation colleagues do their job more efficient. For example, in one of my work where I work as a SDET engineer, so I was considered as an internal test development tools. So I was creating a tools not related to automation. For example, I created script to generate some test data, right, with specific users and specific roles. If you need like 15 different users with different role, instead of going and creating it manually, which will take you about an hour, so we created a script where you can just put your parameters and it will generate it for a few seconds. So pretty much it was very good improvement for our QA engineer performance. I'm gonna use a Glassdoor just to compare how much QA engineers can make compared to QA automation engineers and SDETs. So as a regular QA automation engineer, I mean in a middle position, not like junior or senior, you can get in Los Angeles, where I am right now, you can get around 90K per year. If we talk about QA automation engineers, you usually earn above 6 figures, and pretty much as Glassdoor says, you can earn around 122K per year. I mean, of course, there is a range. You can get like from 100K to 153K, depending on the company. When we talk about SDETs, it says 127 per year, but I would say usually if you apply for a job, in my experience, it's much higher, like at least for like 10 or 20%, and you can see range here, so you can get like from 105 to 155, like for sure, but you can get up to like 186, right? But if we scroll down, we can see like top companies like Google and Apple, so you pretty much can get like 200K per year and even more. I personally know people who were making like 400K, 500K, and even more, close to the million. Of course, in today's environment, it's a little bit adjusted. Maybe it's harder to get like 1 million salary than it was like a year or 2 years ago, but it's still possible. But I mean, again, earning like 200K salary for SDET, I think it's pretty good compensation. So when it comes to the interview, people usually consider SDETs as programmers or software developers. That means interview may be hard. You will be asked questions with algorithms, with coding, with system design, data structure, and so on. So pretty much you will need to be well prepared. For QA automation role, usually it mostly questions regarding automation tools like Selenium, like what's the best way to create tests, and so on. But you need to consider that many companies, they don't really see much difference between SDET engineers and QA automation engineers, and even applying for a QA automation job, people may ask you questions regarding the algorithms and data structure. And also being as a SDET, you also may be asked questions regarding the Selenium, best test automation patterns, how to apply locators, and so on. Well, if you're considering yourself SDET, you should know that anyway. And that being said, if you learn, for example, some automation tools like a Selenium, even in a higher level, if you know how to create a cucumber test, but you're not really comfortable going deeper, creating a methods, you're not like 100% comfortable to work with code, I would say apply for SDET positions anyway, because people sometimes don't really see much difference between SDET and QA automation engineer. And also, you never know what companies actually wanted. They can post a position for SDET engineer, but basically they just want to find a person who can create automation tests on an existing framework. And pretty much in this case, you will be a good fit for that. So don't be afraid, apply anyway. I know it hurts when you're failing interviews, but it's better to try anyway, because pretty much you're not losing anything. Also, it's worth to mention that without manual QA experience, you can't really be a good SDET engineer or QA automation engineer, because if you don't know how to test things manually, you wouldn't know how to automate them properly, right? And that's why I mostly see people more successful with manual QA background becoming more successful SDETs rather than developers who converting themselves to the SDET role. Even people with manual QA experience, they may lack of technical knowledge, but understanding the fundamentals of testing usually helps them to create better tests. Last few notes, usually in a company, people considering you the same as the developers, right? So they treat you with proper respect because you also work with technical stuff, right? I'm saying treating with respect because, you know, sometimes if you work as a manual QA engineer, devs, they can like, you know, look down to you saying like, hey, you're not really engineer because you don't know how to code, you're just testing everything manually. I mean, not all of them, but some people may think that, even though I don't really agree. But if you're working as a SDET, I mean, you're pretty much on the same level as developers, right? Because they don't know how to create those automation frameworks and you don't know how to do their job. I mean, it's okay, but you, like all of you are developers right now. So you pretty much getting the same level of respect at work, the same salary level, and so on. Also, I can tell you that being software development engineer in test is really cool because you are working on technical things, creating new tools, creating a framework from scratch. And there's also a lot of interesting challenges. Actually, if we talk about stress level, I would say being as a SDET engineer is a less stress compared to developers because you pretty much don't release anything to production, right? And you usually don't have like any product manager pushing you to release something really quick. Usually you work on your own schedule, nobody really saying anything to you, they just see final results as their tests being automated or maybe new frameworks we're creating, and usually they're very happy with that. Many of my friends who work as SDETs, they try to convert their career as developers, like a full stack development or maybe mobile development. Majority of them transition back because they saw the difference in stress at the amount of work that you need to do every day, and they see like it's much better to work as a SDET engineer without having so much stress rather than being a software engineer. So yeah, hopefully this video helped you to understand the difference. Click the like button if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave in the comments your thoughts. Maybe you don't agree with something, or maybe I missed something. I can reply you on the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next videos. Bye.